One of the biggest stories now actually the removal of Gertrude Torkornoo as Chief Justice and Supreme Court Judge. Now, I'm say Nancy me bad can say na say nkrofo adwen airborne tanta say sisia no ye no as Chief Justice no is she still going to be a Supreme Court judge? But Melodies ebusu ni between madwen eba besi so said abi she's not going to be a Supreme Court judge because Oshe His Excellency John Dramani Mahama letter na or the buyer na or can we letter nimu say we know as a Supreme Court judge as well. What you say? And so that's that. Now the world is reacting to it. You are going to read comments and see what is going on, what people are saying. But I want us to read this report from BBC. Let's see how BBC reported on this story, and then you heard the echo. Now, I'll say Ghana Chief Justice sacked over allegations of misuse of public funds. Ghana's President John Mahama has fired the country's Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo following a recommendation by an inquiry. She had been on suspension since April after complaints were lodged against her in petitions by 3 individuals. What you say? Complaints were lodged against her in petition by 3 individuals. So see, a president-appointed commission then found that grounds of stated misbehavior had been established and recommended her removal from office. Mahama's office said on Monday, Ms. Torkornoo, BBC, she's not Miss, so she's Mrs. She's not Miss Torkornoo, she's Mrs. Torkornoo. Yes, Remo. Mrs. Torkornoo has dismissed the allegations as unfounded and politically motivated. The presidency said Mahama was required to act in accordance with the committee's recommendations, but critics fear it sets a worrying precedent and undermines judicial independence. I'll say in its investigation, the panel reviewed 10,000 pages of evidence from 13 witnesses. As I was saying, 10,000 pages of evidence, 13 witnesses. On behalf of petitioner Daniel Ofori, the Chief Justice also testified and called 12 other witnesses, including experts. The 2 other petitions have not been concluded. Mrs. Torkornoo has also been removed as a judge of the Supreme Court following the committee's findings. The inquiry found evidence of unlawful expenditure of public funds linked to her private travel. Her spouse and daughter were reportedly paid allowances using public funds during a private trip with her husband to Tanzania in 2023 and another to US with her daughter. She also faced allegations of interference in appointment by sidestepping procedures for appointing Supreme Court judges and abusing powers in the transfer of a judicial employee. Mrs. Torkornoo, Ghana's 3rd female Chief Justice, was nominated in 2023 by former President Nana Akufo-Addo. She is the first sitting Chief Justice to be investigated and dismissed. Chief Justices in Ghana enjoy security of tenure, meaning they can only be removed from office on a few grounds, which include incompetence and misbehavior. However, Mrs. Torkornoo's legal representatives have dismissed the basis for her removal. In April, the opposition New Patriotic Party condemned her suspension, describing it as a political... For just give me 1 minute of your time, let me interrupt with this very important notice. Sabo heme na opese o reduce a year wefu from this level to this level. Very simple. Nyama miensa na ewo se oye. Eto de bia ya na nkrofo bebre eka se eduro bi ebetumi ama wefu akofom entro eduro bi eni ho ebetumi ayesa. Na wa wotie mi wato eduro sa we hu se wanom enye hwe. Na nyama miensa no me dia atro book. Enkrata obronese opese osie bibi from bibinia fashe book mu. Nti nyama miensa no me dia atro book. Me ameti he na mefuso. Enyama me ye ma mefu ekọ from within 3 months. 3 months pe. Nti book no pe bia on your screen obetumi a click any of the icons na wa pe book no. And as a link na wa comment box de mo say no. o click here be another page. Into page we no mostly no a mobile money na be use. Ope hard copy of the book na wa click here. So ope book no phone so na wa click here. So ope video yankasa ye kenkan book na ma na we for wo ni ma kenkan na eno so wa click ubenya video ni to tia through mobile money na wenya video no ana wenya book no na uye we ni na still on sanka book no ana we tia ka we na still on sanka book na o ya ade we na still unya kwan enya book na don't worry, call the number and say message 055 807 4986 055 807 4986 o messages our number now benya book no. Now aside the fact say if we kese enye fe no yesi Ghana for yare a ekum Ghana for dodo na te say stroke, BP, akoma yare diabetes ne nyama no nini na no fu kese ene deba na ya na nsem wo ya America no asem America no say the teenager ho enonim nti se wutie me na wefuso na wo hospital ko ye tester ya na bia ye ka tro say cholesterol ye high dodo na no fu kese no ene ekose nti se wutie me na person we see the size of your stomach very simple. Get the book as I've shown you in the video. Mama yentie ye mame baako ne testimony a wode aba just after a year buying the book and doing the things in the book.
Yeah, melodies. When you me na me pesa me kasa. Me swa to the extent say me na fufu nyina complain say senior me so at no enye fine. Emfata me look like before. And no say me nume drubi a me nyai. Me bibi a me nyai na emfata me.
So this is a very good problem to have. Say also beti na nkrofo ehun ne say senya also ati de ebia na ofe drobi. Me see drobi eni ho. Enyama na wo book ni mu a. Na eno ano no yentia story no eso. Witch hunt in an attempt to undermine judicial independence. Multiple lawsuits challenging the removal process were unsuccessful. She had previously survived a removal request under Kufuor, who found the petition to have several deficiencies. She had been accused of bias in some of her rulings by the current governing party, which was then in opposition. A former Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Tua Yeboah, has criticized the decision to remove the Chief Justice, saying it set a dangerous precedent. The AFP News Agency reports. The petition that I read showed no proper grounds to warrant her removal. If the threshold is what we read in the petition, then I fear for the future of the judiciary, he is quoted as saying. The judicial arm of government is an independent institution, but the Constitution allows for checks to ensure a balance of power. Critics argue Mrs. Torkornoo's removal could erode the independence of the judiciary and allow the executive branch to exert undue influence over judges. If the executive branch is seen as having too much power over the judiciary, it could undermine public trust in the legal system and create an uneven playing field for justice. When under Gertrude Torkornoo, Parliament sat down and took decision. Now or no, and then they pay about Parliament's decision. And none of the woman who say interference. Only the woman who say interference. But I see, sir, Torkornoo same way in a abbey. One thing, it is showing us that there are some people in this world. They feel like they can do something to someone, but they feel like you shouldn't do the same thing to them. And they will hear MPP phone some more canina, and then MPP4 and the Torkornoo ye no a set bad precedents, and the ye no yes omurefi. The background was shares and say. We all know the next person. And the Yababetono Genmensa. Because the people of Sao, people of Sao, and your lawyer, Chachichikata. The people of Sao, they are preparing their petition. Enche. Enche, you better say Sao for the petition. Akwa to president and him say, Jemensa, you know, and also a beba. So basically, no, That is how BBC, but I'm not going to lie, I like how BBC reported on the story. They stayed very neutral. They reported on the site, say, Maame no, dear Nemba, because say, Unkrofo, Enya Ghana for no movie, dear, Umbe say, oh, say, idea, yes, you were ye ni, or spend public funds, say, or Nemba, anyway, so, any one yard, dear. And then they also spoke on the side of MPP Fonsun Samoka, say, oh, when ya, dear, or say, intino, I think, say, the BBC were fair. Now let's read comments and see how people are reacting. Obi said this is historic and shocking. First time a sitting Chief Justice is dismissed in Ghana. Obi also say this is a significant development in Ghana's judicial history, marking an unprecedented moment with the dismissal of a sitting Chief Justice. Obi say Boli Idi Amin a steady in tyranny. Not to say I say Mahama Idi Amin. We are proud MPP ni baumia nipa sa branche we minim no o baumia nipa pa ena cheze o se Mahama we I say yes, and over 50% of Ghanaians agree with the president. She was a politician disguised as a chief justice. Her personal lawyer was the lawyer for the main opposition party, and she was alleged to have misconducted herself. We are resetting our country. Thank you. Inti Obinzo said the president only acted in accordance with our constitution, and the greater majority of dissenting Ghanaians are in favor of the decision. This is our country, and this is our law. We have a positive leader in place, and we trust his leadership. God bless the president. I say I read this, and I hear no one saying that the charges brought against her are bogus. They are instead talking about judicial independence as if that should excuse abuse of power. Are the charges bogus? So this is someone who is not a Ghanaian, right? And also we read this story, no? And you see, and this is for someone who is a neutral person or Ghana new. Also we read this story, no? Read this story, no? We want to say we more kase tia Chief Justice, no? And you say be our more kase charges na ye de to Chief Justice na so ye ntro. In some way more can say charges we nye charges be a was ye digina so edibo ni kunti obi say charges na ye ntro na. This is someone who is not a Ghanaian. And someone who is not a Ghanaian will say that, say, okay, charges now you're there so no, a intro. And clearly, charges no, you're finding out saying intro. MPP force and say, I read this, and I hear no one saying that the charges brought against her are bogus. They are instead talking about judicial independence. You see? So, the world is now understanding, and the world is seeing that, well, anyway, Montreal, your comment box, Nemo. That's it.